And good afternoon everyone, and welcome to our Friday night crit race. This is the Manilla Cycling crit race. Adam's just put a message up on there reminding everyone that it's a 5 kilometre neutral rollout first, so that's one complete lap. Everyone stays behind the beacon, get everyone together, and then it will be a full-on race as it was last week. Got a few riders just rolling up through past there, but they will stay together in a group. All in all, we have a good turnout for this race, including last week's winner, which was Ian Johnson from Manila. There's Adam just putting out a few instructions for everyone, trying to keep everyone together, ready for the roll and start. It looks like everyone is pretty much together, just trying to get a slight edge on each other there. So this circuit, a little bit of information about this circuit. They're just currently rolling up past Buckingham Palace, which is on their left. They will come to the end of the gardens at Buckingham Palace and then do a U-turn and come back down the opposite side of the road. They'll then pass in front of Buckingham Palace, around past the water fountain. And obviously this race in real life is actually part of the UCI calendar. And this is actually the women's race, the women's circuit race for the weekend of racing in London. In previous years, this race has been won by Laura Trott, Georgia Bronzini, Kristen Wild, and Corinne Riviera. So there's some pretty big names have actually won this, and obviously with it being a crit race, it is more aimed at sprinters. Hence the names on the list that have actually won this event. So now these guys are just heading back up towards the Mall, where they'll turn right at the top, past Buckingham Palace on their left. Sorry, Buckingham Palace on their right. And then they'll head out around past towards Horse Guards Parade. So there's Buckingham Palace and the fountain just outside. They're going round the back of the park now. Like I say, we've got Adam Brooks sat on the front. We're just following Adam just until the race kicks off. Make sure everyone keeps behind that rider at the front. So we've got a bit of a roll call of riders there. We've got Cheryl Murray from Stockton Wheelers just up there with next to Adam. We've got Hammy, Ian Johnson, a few riders from Manila. We've got Paul Best there from Manila as well. A few riders from VO2 Max. Got Steve Hanna, Jason Shipton. These guys are all there in that group, ready to launch once they've come round and took the start finish. So just coming up towards Big Ben, the guys will turn left here. Got the Houses of Parliament on their right. This one's got a little bit of a drag up, not too much, nothing too major on this full circuit really. This is probably just about the steepest point on the route, around about 5 or 6%. Little climb, a little sting in the legs. It'll probably head towards the end of the race. It looks like Manilla have all chose to wear the same jersey there, which is the blue, white and black Zwift jersey. And if I'm not mistaken, it looks like that Mark Best has chose to wear his traditional flat cap, which has become noted in these races. He wore it at the last event, so it looks like that's going to become a key part of his riding strategy. So you can just see Admiralty Arch in the background there. The riders are now heading away from there, where they'll come back up and do a U-turn. Again, a quick switchback and head up the opposite side of the carriageway. All these riders are now pushing towards the front. And once they get to this red banner, the racing will be on. There's Adam Brooks there, just on the right hand side. So as they cross under this red banner, the race will be on. The race is on now. So it'll be interesting to see who tries to go away from the front. Looks like we've got a couple of riders from VO2 Max heading up the road. We've got Rob Brown there, currently unattached, making a headway up the road, along with Hammy and dragging a few riders behind him. Rob hasn't actually had the opportunity to get away. He's got Paul Best there on his wheel. And then there's Mark Best there with his traditional flat hat. These riders now heading back up on the Mall. Ian Johnson now. So this will be the finish point for the race in 3 laps time, or 4 laps time, sorry. So these riders will be looking to take the spoils across this start-finish line. Groups tend to have stuck together a little bit here. Got an idea of the times for the sprint on the left-hand side there. This is quite a big group compared to what we had last week as they set off last week. It stayed relatively collected for the first 10k, I would say, maybe, and then after that we got a bit of a fire off from the front of 5 riders. This week it looks like we've got a much bigger group of riders that are trying to stick together. It looks like we've got a few of the Manilla riders that have just fired off the front. For some reason Mark Best done a U-turn there. I don't know what went on there. So Ian Johnson was last week's winner. And then you've got 4 Manilla riders there just sat at the back of that pack. Adam Brooks being one of them. You've got Sarah Hamilton there, just sitting in this group. This group seems to be working well together. They've pulled out a bit of a lead over some riders on the opposite side of the carriageway as they switch back to come back towards Buckingham Palace. This is a little bit of a downhill section, Wondering if we might get somebody try to pull away, or whether they're going to save it and try to ride as a group. We've got John Foster from Manilla there, Lee Ruckin. Paul Best from Manilla in this group. Looks like there's around about 5 or 6 riders from Manilla in this front group, along with some Cleveland Wheelers. We've got Steve Tilley there from Cleveland Wheelers. Got a few riders just back down the road there. Jason Shipton from Manilla. Looks like these riders are starting to just stretch it out just a little bit. Plenty of ride-ons being given. Phil Wheatley was in our lead group last week, along with Ian Johnson from Manilla. James Wilson. I haven't seen James's name on the start line for today, so he may have given it a miss this week. This group tends to look like it's sticking together. And looks like we've got a couple of riders just rolling through there. And it looks like Hammy's giving it a fire off the front. Ian Johnson in the black kit there. Like I say, our race leader from last week. These riders not letting anyone get away. They're just slowly eking out these laps, completing the race. 10k into the race, which is a 27.3k. These riders seem quite content in just riding together. Quite a big group. Quick look at Adam Brooks there. As these riders make their way back past Trafalgar Square and head back through Admiralty Arch. And watch Steve Moon there, just sat within that group. I don't think anybody will be going for sprint points this time round, so there'll be nothing to benefit from it. They will save it all for the last lap. Jump back in with Ian Johnson. Green line signifies 200 metres to the finish line, which is where we will hopefully get a good view when we come to the end of this race of who's won and what position they take. Jump on and follow John Foster, sat in that front group. John being known as a good sprinter. So there's Paul Best still up there in that front group as well, along with Adam Brooks, Lee Rookin, Michael Highmarsh, Steve Tilley, some big names in here. It's just a question of when these riders will try to break it up. At the minute, these riders, I would say, are all riding quite relatively comfortably. They're not doing anything out of the ordinary. Drop back to watch Rob Brown as the front of the race just passes on the opposite side of the road. In this group, it looks like we've got Jason Shipton, Cheryl Murray, couple of minutes up the road. We've got a couple of VO2 Max riders, and then we're back into the front group. So this front group consists of Phil Wheatley, Lee Rookin, Darren Pine, Ian Johnson, Sarah Hamilton, Lee Steemower, Paul Best, Mark Hamilton, Lee Rookin, John Foster. Quite a few of the big names are up there, and obviously Adam Brooks as well. Quite a few of the big names that performed over the last few events that we've run have all been in this group. We're coming up somewhere close to the halfway point of this race. 13.7 k's, so another 20-25 minutes of riding, depending on how they decide to pace this. And it looks like we may have had a rider off the front. Looks like Adam tried to sneak a bit of advantage going up this hill. Looks like Phil Wheatley closed him down along with Steve Tilley. And then Ian Johnson, ever the marshal, just monitoring what's going on as they take this little bit of a climb in. Michael Highmarsh just going through the screen there, slowly watching Ian Johnson. Back with John Foster sat on the front. Looks like he's got his Tron bike there, pulling out all the stops. Halfway through this race, there is every possibility we may catch some back markers on this circuit. It is quite a short circuit, so we may catch a few. Looking at the map on the top, it is a very big possibility. Quick follow, Paul Best there from Manilla. Just keeping an eye on this pack. And it looks like Mark has decided he's going to stretch his legs, and he's gone off the front. Just coming under Admiralty Arch now. Got himself a little bit of a gap. I wonder how long he can keep that gap. Ian Johnson from Manila with Adam Brooks just marshalling the front of this group. They won't be riding, they'll let their teammate get away. It'll be down to somebody else to bring him back. And it looks like it's Sarah Hamilton's going to give it a go. So Sarah Hamilton's going to try and bring back, along with Phil Wheatley. Looks like Mark's got around about 3 seconds on the front of this group. Ian Johnson from Manila there, just at the front of that pack. Just see Mark Hamilton up the road. Currently out in front. Quite a lot of the Manila riders in this front group. And there was a back marker just gone through on the left hand side. I think that was young Ben Turnbull from Manila, one of the Manila youth riders. Joined this race for the first time. Looks like John Foster's gone across towards Mark. Them two riders now have got a bit of a lead as the others come round the bottom from the end of the mall. So we still have Mark out in front, John following close behind. And they're trying to be reeled in by Phil Wheatley and then Paul Best from Manilla with Mark. There's Ben Turnbull just being reeled in by the group. Adam Brooks putting in a big effort there. Looks like this group is now all back together. John Foster's back, as is Mark Hamilton. A bit of a shot off the front there. Michael Highmarsh and Phil Wheatley, closely followed by Steve Moon. Some very tactical racing going on here. Nobody wanting to take it up too early from the front. Front group looks like it contains around about 10 riders. Adam's just having a little ride off the front there. See how far he's allowed to get up this little climb. 19.8k into this, so we've got one more lap after they've completed this one. Coming around past Nelson's column, heading back down towards the embankment. With Brooks managing to stay away. Looks like he's got around about 3 to 4 seconds over Phil Wheatley, who's trying to drag the rest of this group. So currently Adam Brooks sits at the front of this race, coming up to the red banner. And he's back in the group now. Going to the back, sit at the back, take a bit of a rest. We'll have a quick watch of Darren Pine from Cleveland Wheelers. This little front group have around about 3 minutes over the Chase Peloton. The Chase Peloton containing some VO2 Max riders in the form of Stephen Locker and Barry Taylor. You've got Cheryl Murray from Stockton Wheelers, and then you've got Jace Shipton from Manila, and then James Dytham from VO2 Max. Also in that group is Rob Brown. Rob did say he was having a few internet problems. Whether that's contributed or not. He was in this front group initially. As we head back up to the mall towards Buckingham Palace. World famous piece of tarmac and finish straight in this race. It does look like we've lost Mark Best from this group. I wonder where he's gone. Can't see his flat hat anywhere in that group. So I'm wondering if he's lost an internet connection. This group spread out all over the road. Some nice aerial shots we get. Obviously Adam Brooks there with his big yellow arrow above his head showing he's the event organiser or beacon in this race. Nice to see him sat in the front group having a few digs off the front. Paul Best there. Just keeping an eye on proceedings. Paul does have a good sprint. If it came down to a sprint at the end, we've got a couple of big sprinters in this group. Be interesting to see where it finishes. We know Ian is a very, very strong time trialist. He's got to fancy his chances, and on the last lap you would have to put money on him having a dig. My money would be as he takes that little climb around at the bottom of the Big Ben bank. And there's Ian just coming to the fore there. This one's a pan flat bit of tarmac as they come around the back of the park down towards Big Ben, and then they'll swing a left. So we know the leader is going to come from this group somewhere. We now just have to decide who it's going to be. Steve Moon having a fire off the front there. Is he going to get himself a gap? Closely marshalled by Adam Brooks and Michael Highmarsh. Big Ben on the right and the Houses of Parliament. Down to this junction and they'll turn a left. Relatively flat bit into the climb and then 6% in the climb. We have to keep an eye on these riders here. If anyone's going to go at any point, you've got to put money and say it would be on this little rise. There's nowhere else that these riders could effectively get away. And then it looks like Adam's putting in a big dig. Adam's away. Is anyone going to be strong enough to go with him? Adams had a good sprint there, got himself a gap of around about 5 seconds. And it looks like Michael Highmarsh is going to try to reel him in. Currently only matching him for power. He's going to have to go up from there. Brooks back at the front of the race. Adams took the U-turn. With a slight gap over the rest of the group, around about 7 seconds. That was all they needed to stay away from them last week in the group. So he'll take the switch back here, and then he will see them on the opposite side of the carriageway. Looks like the chase is being led by Ian Johnson from Manila. These riders are only around about 5 or 6 seconds behind Adam. In that group, we've got Mark Hamilton, Michael Highmarsh, Phil Wheatley, Ian Johnson, and it looks like Michael Highmarsh is putting in a bit of an effort to try and catch Adam. He's brought Adam's lead down to around about 3 seconds. You can see him up front. Has he got the power in his legs to bring him back? And it looks like Ian Johnson's just gone over the top. He's going to come past Adam. Ian Johnson putting a big effort in. He's going to go past Adam Brooks on the mile. Coming up behind him, you've got Phil Wheatley coming up, taking up, putting in a massive effort there. Ian Johnson into the last 200 metres to take his, what can only be his second win. He's got to be taking it now. A few new personal records there from the race as these riders come in and cross the start-finish line. Well, what a race that was. What a race that was. Ian Johnson coming through, taking it from Adam Brooks and Phil Wheatley. And that about concludes our event. We shall get the results up as soon as we can. And we'll be back with you next Friday, 6:30,